Have you ever been on an airplane when everything suddenly starts shaking? Maybe your drink moves, the aircraft gives you that little drop, and suddenly everyone gets quiet. You look around and you start wondering, is everything okay? Then you hear the familiar announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing some turbulence. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened. And that's suddenly the moment when passengers start asking questions. Why didn't the pilot avoid it? Can the pilot actually see turbulence? Can the turbulence damage an aircraft? And perhaps the biggest question, if turbulence can be dangerous, why do airplanes sometimes fly straight through it? The answer is much more interesting than you might think, because turbulence isn't simply a patch of bad air that pilots can always see ahead and avoid. Sometimes it's predictable, sometimes it's reported by another aircraft, and sometimes technology can help identify conditions associated with it. And sometimes it can appear with very little warning. So today we are going behind one of the most common and often misunderstood experiences in aviation, turbulence. And by the end of this episode, you understand what is actually happening when your aircraft starts shaking and why the response isn't always to turn around and run away from it. Welcome to another episode of the Hidden World of Aviation. If you're new here, my name is Claire Chepkoech, and this is CC's Signals and Snuggles, where we experience aviation, tech, and lifestyle. And in today's episode, we are going to uncover another question that most people usually ask. Why do pilots not avoid the turbulence? And why do they fly through it instead? Stay tuned. Let's start with the simplest question. What exactly is turbulence? The easiest way to understand it is think about air as something that is constantly moving. We can't see the air around the aircraft, but that doesn't mean that it's still. Air is moving in different directions, as always. There can be changes in temperature, changes in speed, and changes in pressure. There can be mountains affecting the airflow. There can be thunderstorms. There can be strong winds at different altitudes, and there can be boundaries between different air masses. All these things can create conditions where the airflow isn't as smooth as we like. And when an aircraft passes through those changing air movements, you can feel it. You might feel a bump, a vibration, a sudden movement, or sometimes a much stronger jolt. That's what we commonly experience as turbulence. But here is something important. Turbulence isn't necessarily the same thing as an aircraft being out of control. The aircraft is designed to operate in an atmosphere that isn't perfectly smooth, so when you feel the aircraft move, that doesn't automatically mean something has gone wrong. In fact, turbulence is a normal atmospheric phenomenon. The important question is not simply, is there turbulence? The important questions are, how strong is it? Where is it? Can we anticipate it? And how should the flight crew respond? Now here is something passengers often misunderstand. Can pilots actually see turbulence? The answer is not in the way you might imagine. Pilots don't have a screen that simply shows them a red patch saying turbulence here. The atmosphere doesn't work quite that neatly. Instead, pilots use a combination of information, weather information, aircraft systems, reports from other aircraft, air traffic control information, forecasts, and their own experience and assessment of their conditions. Weather radar, for example, is extremely useful for identifying areas of precipitation and weather activity. But there is an important distinction. A weather radar display is not simply a turbulence detector. It helps pilots understand the weather environment they are dealing with. And that information can help them make better decisions. Another very important source of information is what other aircrafts are experiencing. Imagine an aircraft has just flown through an area and reports significant turbulence. Here is where it gets even more interesting. There isn't just one type of turbulence. Different atmospheric conditions can create different types. For example, there is turbulence associated with thunderstorms. Thunderstorms can contain powerful updrafts and downdrafts and can create extremely turbulent conditions. There is also turbulence associated with mountains. When strong winds pass over mountainous terrain, the airflow can become disturbed. This can create what we call mountain wave turbulence. Then there is something called mechanical turbulence. This can occur when airflow is disturbed by things like terrain or buildings, particularly closer to the ground. And then there is one that sounds particularly mysterious, clear air turbulence. Clear air turbulence can occur without the obvious visual signs that passengers might associate with bad weather. You don't necessarily see a giant dark cloud ahead. The sky can look completely normal, and yet the aircraft can encounter turbulent air. That's one reason turbulence can sometimes surprise passengers. The important thing to remember is that the absence of visible clouds doesn't necessarily mean the atmosphere is completely smooth. Air is invisible, and some of the processes happening inside it are invisible too. So we've reached the question that brought us here. If turbulence can be uncomfortable and sometimes serious, why doesn't the pilot simply avoid it? Well, sometimes they do. When conditions ahead indicate that an area may contain significant Now, let's talk about the question that probably scares passengers the most. Can turbulence damage an airplane? Aircraft are engineered to withstand a wide range of aerodynamic loads, and the structure is designed with safety margins and tested extensively. So, ordinary turbulence does not mean that the aircraft is about to break apart. In fact, one of the things that can be surprising to passengers is how much aircraft structures are designed to handle. That wing moving slightly isn't necessarily a sign of weakness. Aircraft structures have to be capable of flexing and responding to aerodynamic forces. But that doesn't mean severe turbulence should be taken lightly. There are real risks associated with turbulence. And one of the biggest risks for inside the aircraft is actually something much simple: being unsecured. If you're standing, if you're not wearing your seatbelt, or if an object isn't probably secured, a sudden movement can cause injury. That's why the seatbelt sign matters. And that's why cabin crew may ask passengers to remain seated. The aircraft may be perfectly capable of handling the conditions. So when a seatbelt sign comes on, don't think of it as an inconvenience. Think of it as a very simple safety instruction. And there's another thing passengers notice during turbulence. Sometimes the cabin crew suddenly stop their service. They collect their equipment, secure the cabin, take their seats. Why? Because they need to protect themselves too. Flight attendants aren't immune to turbulence. They are working in the cabin, often standing and moving around while the aircraft is in flight. If the aircraft encounters turbulence, they can be thrown off balance just like anyone else. So when conditions require it, the safest place for everyone is to be seated and secured. And that's why you shouldn't be surprised if the service suddenly stops. Priority isn't your coffee, the priority is safety. So what should you actually do when turbulence starts? First, keep your seatbelt fastened whenever you're seated. Even if the seatbelt sign is switched off, keeping it loosely fastened can provide an extra layer of protection. Second, listen to the crew. If you're asked to return to your seat, do it. If the crew asks for you to secure something, secure it. Third, don't panic simply because the aircraft moves. And this is a part of aviation that I really want passengers to appreciate. When you feel turbulence, you might only see one thing: the aircraft shaking. But aviation doesn't work as one person sitting in a cockpit making decisions in isolation. There's a whole system behind every flight: weather information, aircraft systems, pilot decision making, air traffic services, communication, reports from other aircraft, procedures, training, and countless people working behind the scenes. And this is exactly what I mean when I talk about the hidden world of aviation. Passengers see the aircraft, they see the pilot, they see the cabin crew, but there is an enormous amount of information moving behind the scenes. And sometimes that information helps an aircraft avoid a problem before the passenger even knows there was one. That's one of the reasons aviation fascinates me the most. So much of the work is invisible, but invisible doesn't mean unimportant. The next time you're on a flight and the aircraft starts moving a little, don't immediately assume something has gone terribly wrong. Take a breath, look around, listen to the crew, and remember that what you're feeling is happening inside a much bigger system. A system designed around preparation, information, training, and safety. Turbulence may never become something you enjoy, and honestly, I don't think it needs to. But hopefully, understanding it can make it a little less frightening. Because sometimes the things that scare us most are simply the things that we don't understand. And that's exactly why we are here, to look behind the ordinary moments and discover the hidden world of aviation. So now you know, turbulence doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with your aircraft. It's a natural atmospheric phenomenon that aviation professionals monitor, anticipate, and manage using a combination of information, technology, training, and procedures. And the next time you feel that familiar bump, hopefully you look at it a little different. If you enjoyed this episode of the Hidden World of Aviation, don't forget to subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and share with your friends and loved ones. And before I let you go, tell me in the comment section, what is the scariest thing that you've ever experienced in an aircraft? Maybe that will inspire our next episode of the Hidden World of Aviation. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, in every flight there is always something happening behind the scenes that most passengers never get to see. I'm Claire Chepkoech. See you in our next episode of the Hidden World of Aviation. Bye-bye.